Hey Google, play Docs Outside the Box podcast.
All right, here's where you left off in Docs Outside the Box, a podcast where ordinary doctors are doing extraordinary things.
Welcome to Docs Outside the Box podcast. This is your official show, looking inside the minds of cutting-edge and innovative doctors. Think you'll find these stories in any medical textbook? Sorry. You're getting real life insight from men and women pushing the envelope beyond medicine. Ordinary doctors doing extraordinary things. Let's start now with your host, Dr. Nee Darko.
This episode is brought to you by Set for Life Insurance. Protect yourself against life setbacks with Set for Life Insurance. Set for Life Insurance gets you disability and life insurance at a reduced cost with their exclusive discounts. Now that's why I use them. Visit www.setforlifeinsurance.com and tell them Dr. Darko sent you. What's up? Here with another episode of Docs Outside the Box. I'm your host, Dr. Nee Darko, and I thought I'd have a little bit of fun with the introduction. And I got a Google Home Mini when I purchased my Google Pixel 2 XL phone back in October, and it finally came in the mail maybe about a month ago. And to be honest with you, I'm not a big fan of these smart devices that work primarily by listening to you. I don't know why, but I don't know if I have a little bit of just, I'm nervous about the fact that this thing is always listening, and I feel like Google is always listening on my conversations. And so, I most of the time have it on mute and I just never use it. And since I got it for free, it doesn't really bother me, the fact that it just sits unplugged on my living room table. But I decided to play around with it and just see the functionality of the Google Home Mini. And I'm actually pretty surprised. My biggest complaint, though, is I think the whole "Hey Google" and then you ask for a command, I think that's kind of not natural. Obviously, you could be trained, but for me, it's not really a natural. It's not really a natural part of my diction to really speak like that and ask for something, and it takes too long. So, the word is still out, the judgment is still out if I'm going to continue to use this, but I thought I'd have a little bit of fun and start the podcast with what you can do. Now, if anybody knows if you can do this with the Amazon Alexa, go ahead and shout me out. Let me know. Hit me up on social media and let me know if it can actually work. And check it out. If you can record yourself doing it, send it to me and I'll feature it on the show. How about that? Also, I just got back from Ghana. The previous episode I recorded in Ghana. This one I did some of the work in Ghana. So right now I'm just getting back and I'm just catching up with emails. I'm catching up with episodes. So people who have sent me emails, it's going to be a while, but I will get back to you as soon as I can. Thank you all for your patience. Also, I just want to really thank everybody who continues to contribute, everybody who continues to jump along on the Docs Outside the Box Facebook group, which is, you can get to it by going to docsotbnation.com. Just type in that URL and it will take you directly to the Facebook group, and you can ask to be let into the group. And as you can see, I've been doing a lot more live streaming on there. There's also a lot more engagement on there. So it's a good way to get a recap on previous episodes, as well as an opportunity just to spend time and mingle and network with like-minded folk. So also, if you continue to use the Facebook group, keep paying attention, because I'm going to be doing a giveaway very, very, very soon. So make sure you stay on the Facebook group. Also follow me on Instagram, which leads me to my next point. I am changing the Instagram page. I'm going to try to do everything Docs Outside the Box. So the new Instagram page for Docs Outside the Box will be at Docs Outside the Box, one word. So at Docs, DOCS, outside the THE box. That will be where, if you want to follow up with whatever new is going on with Docs Outside the Box, obviously you go to that Instagram page to find out. So if you want to find out anything about Docs Outside the Box and you go to the previous account, which was at Nee P Darko, you won't really find much there in terms of new material. And that's just part of me in general, just trying to make sure I streamline everything and make sure everything is branded with Docs Outside the Box. So make sure you guys jump on that. So let's go on with our next episode. Our next episode, check this out. So I know a lot of you all think about this, but do you all wonder what it's like to make enough money, so much money from like real estate or, something else where you don't feel so constrained that you have to go back to work, whether it's in a hospital or a clinic or urgent care? Because I think about that all the time. And I love my job. I do, obviously I'm a trauma surgeon. It's very stressful. But to me, I can only take it in small amounts. I can't do it all the time, which is why I switched to being an independent contractor. Now, I think things are changing now. A lot more people are feeling a lot more comfortable being able to say things like that. Like, I love my job, but I don't want to do it all the time. And after you listen to my next guest, you all may be like, man, I'm really glad someone else said it. My next guest is Passive Income MD, who has the popular blog, Passive Income MD. Passive Income MD, or as I call him, the notorious PIMD, he's making it easier for docs, for all of you all, to start setting up passive streams of income with his blog. I mean, it's so simple, very easy to read type of blog. I really enjoy his blog. And, the reason why he came on the show is, in essence, we're here to talk about how to not be so damn reliant on your day job, right? I know a lot of people are like, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, preach. So his website started when he was feeling so much of the pressure of trading time for dollars. You guys remember that? You work so hard. Everything that you do is related to making money in the hospital, yet you don't have time to enjoy that money outside with family. But in essence, he was in the same type of, hamster wheel. And he took his his knowledge of real estate and decided to create a blog, and the rest is history. In 2 years, the website has become a regular go-to for physicians who are looking to make money outside of the hospital, outside of a clinic, outside of anything, related to medicine. And just recently, congratulations to Passive Income MD. He joined the White Coat Investor Network distribution. So congratulations to him on that one. So on this show, what we're going to talk about is, why is he anonymous with his persona? We're going to learn about why he started the blog. He's also going to tell us his definition of passive income. And he's also going to give some very quick recommendations for those looking to develop passive income streams. And then he's also going to answer hashtag I'm not just a doc. So this is going to be a good one. Make sure you get a paper, make sure you get pen ready, because he's going to be dropping some knowledge. There are going to be some articles and some blogs that he talks about that are listed in the show notes. So, hey, take notes. And without further ado, I present Passive Income MD. Enjoy. Passive Income MD, welcome to Docs Outside the Box.
Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Look, this is we've been trying to make this happen for a long period of time. Obviously, with what you're doing on the website and with you incorporating with the White Coat Investor Network, big things have been happening on your end. But obviously, with Docs Outside the Box, we're telling stories of doctors who are doing amazing things outside of medicine. So obviously it makes sense for us to feature you on the show, but also at the same time, we want to inspire other doctors to start thinking outside the box from a financial standpoint. And definitely your website is in line with that. So congratulations on everything. And once again, thanks again for being on the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's quite an honor. I hope people enjoy the show.
Oh, they're going to love it. So you know how it is. So we'll make it happen. But listen, before we get too much into the nitty gritty, I know you're anonymous. I know I had to use like some type of special number to contact you, which is going to like reroute me to like the Middle East and reroute me to Australia and then whatever, because you're Mr. Anonymous. But as far as you can tell us a little bit about where you're from, what med school you went to, things like that.
Sure. I'll tell you as much as I tell people on the blog. Well, I'm an anesthesiologist and I live on the West Coast. That's about it.
Okay. All right. I mean, like, are you married?
Yeah, maybe I'll come back. If I ever do a full reveal, how about I come back on your show and do that reveal? How about that?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, it's pretty impressive right now. Like, you have like a cape on and like a mask. It's pretty interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, I can tell you I am married. I am married and I have 2 children. And I write about them a lot because that really, they're a big influence behind what I'm doing and what my goals are.
Now, let me ask you a question, Passive Income MD. I feel like I got to use this long name.
PIMD? How about that?
PIMD. There, the notorious PIMD. There you go.
Okay.
So, like, why be anonymous? Let's settle that first.
When I first started, I wasn't sure how much I would reveal on the blog, like in terms of my finances, my future plans in medicine, and these kind of things. And I saw a physician on fire doing it. And I said, look, if somebody can write a blog anonymously, be successful, do these kind of things, you know what? I'm going to do it too. And so I figured it's better to start like that instead of just revealing too much. Now, I mean, that may change in the future. Who knows? But you know how it is on blogs these days. People love to reveal their finances, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of like
people give like monthly income reports, like Pat Flynn. That seems to be the newest thing. People reveal a lot about themselves.
Exactly, and some people are really public about it. I mean, even the White Coat Investor, you'll see he gives his annual report and talks about how much he's made from his side income here through his blog and his empire. And I wasn't sure how much I was going to reveal, and yeah, I don't know. I'm a little bit more private, I feel, and I wasn't sure what the ramifications would be, especially when I start talking about how much, I want to work a little bit less in medicine and these kind of things, and how that would kind of sit with some of my colleagues or my partners. And so I decided to start anonymously, and so I've just kept that going.
Well, look, that you made a great segue, because you put out an article late last year that I absolutely love, something that I think most doctors aren't used to having this type of conversation, but are thinking about it in their minds and can't really talk to other people about it. But the name of your article was, "I love being a doctor. I just want to do it less," which I thought was awesome. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think in some regards, I think we all have that type of thought process, but we're afraid to talk to other people about that, let other people know that, look, man, I'm interested in other things. So why did you decide to write that article? What was the feedback? Take it from there.
Yeah, I mean, when I wrote that article, it's kind of at the point where I hit, I don't know what you want to call it, financial independence from medicine, in the sense that a lot of the income that comes from my other ventures, I think whether they're passive income or some other businesses that I do, that actually started to exceed my expenses, which to me made me feel like, look, if something happened in medicine, I had to quit my job today, then our family would be fine from these other ventures. So it kind of put me at a point where I said, look, what do I want to do? I mean, do I want to continue to work as hard as I'm doing right now in medicine? Do I want to quit? I mean, I know some people go that way. Some people don't, they just keep going. And it kind of put me at that crossroads. And I was thinking, look, I actually really enjoy what I do. I mean, I love my day job. I love it. But there are parts of it that I don't love doing, which is oftentimes the part that leaves me, working heavily on weekends or heavily at nights, missing parts of my family's life, watching my kids grow up. And so, where's that balance? And that kind of led to me writing this article. And it's just really cool how much it's resonated with people and the comments that I've gotten. But yeah, I love what I do. I love being a doctor. And I just want to do it in a sustainable way, right? And ultimately, I feel when you find that balance between being a doctor, your other passions, your ventures, spending time with your family, then ultimately, I mean, that makes you a better doctor, because you enjoy what you're doing and you're doing it for the love. And I don't think anybody should feel any sort of guilt in wanting to work a little bit less. I don't think you owe it in particular to anybody. Obviously, we did a lot of training and we did these kind of things. And so I actually, it's nice for people to stay in the profession. I mean, I love that. And I hope I inspire people to necessarily not quit medicine, but to have that choice. And once you have that choice, I hope that people, it might reignite some of the passion that you have for it. And that might lead you to find really, really nice balance between all these things.
Yeah, I love that article. That was a great answer. Let's take a step back now. So let's take it back, I don't know, a couple years back. When exactly did you start Passive Income MD, the website?
It's been about a year and a half at this point.
That's it. Wow.
Yeah, about a year and a half. I mean, it was in the planning stages for about 6 months to a year. And I had been thinking about it. Again, I was kind of pushed to do it because I was talking about real estate so much, or these other ventures at work. And I was talking to a few of my friends there. and they had suggested that maybe I should put it out there, right? I mean, they had been reading the White Coat Investor, and they said, look, someone needs to be talking about some of these more passive income ventures, maybe something about real estate, and you like to talk about it so much. Maybe you could throw something on a blog or something. And I kind of took it as a joke, and I had it in the back of my head for a while, and it took some planning. It took me a while to kind of work up to it because I hadn't done any writing beyond medical research papers for years, right? I mean, it had been since college, maybe, apart from maybe personal statements. And I didn't even know if I would enjoy it. I didn't even know if I'd be good at it. I didn't know what it would look like. And so I just let it sit for a while. And then ultimately I said, look, if I'm going to do this, I should just do it. Let me just write 10 posts.
Just start. Just start.
Yeah, just start. Just start. And it's probably the worst time to start. At that point, I had just had my second kid. I was really busy. It's probably not the right time to start. But again, what I've learned over time is that there's never a good time to start anything. I mean, there's always a reason not to.
That's a good
answer.
answer.
So I said, look, let me just see if I can sit down and ultimately write 10 posts. And if I can get to 10 posts, then I feel good. Look, maybe I should just start this thing. And that's what happened.
When did you decide, or not decide, but when did you find out that, man, this is really starting to catch on? People love the messaging. People are clamoring for more. Take us through that process.
Well, I just put it out there. I just wrote these 10 posts, and you never know if you're just going to write something and nobody will ever read it. Well, I just did it, and I reached out to a few of the other physician writers out there, like Physician on Fire, Future Proof MD, and the White Coat Investor, and I asked for advice from them. Okay, you've done this, and you've done it successfully. Yeah, how do you get the word out there? Well, Physician on Fire happened to highlight one of my posts, and all of a sudden I just saw my analytics go crazy. All of a sudden people were coming to my blog, and that kind of started a snowball effect where one of the posts ended up getting picked up by, I think it was Physicians Money Digest or Doximity, and it just kind of blew up from there. And it's just something that's really fortunate. It's just something that's kind of totally luck.
Now, Physician on Fire was on this show. He was episode 28. So, audience, if you're trying to figure out what Passive Income MD is talking about, he's talking about the pretty popular blogger, one who definitely touts financial independence, Physician on Fire. Once again, that's episode 28. Now, PIMD, the notorious PIMD, obviously when you started, you had your hands in multiple areas of passive income. What is, the people who are listening to this show right now, they're like, that's great. Passive income from a standpoint of just the term passive income, that's great. What does that mean to you, passive income? And from then the next question will be how does someone start? What's the best and easiest way for someone to start getting passive income?
I think the biggest misconception people have with the term passive income is that it's totally passive. I think what I've learned over time is that it requires something up front, whether that's work, time, energy, money. Something has to be done up front, but then the rewards come later, right? I mean, what we do mostly in our day jobs is we basically trade time for money, right? You put time in, you get money out. The awesome thing about passive income, when you truly have it going well, is that you set it up in the beginning, you're smart about it, you do it, and later on, the rewards keep coming later on. Now, if you really want to know about it, I wrote a little bit more about it in a post called What is Passive Income? I think that was actually my first post ever, right? I wanted to define it, what it means to me, because it can mean different things to different people, but that's ultimately what I believe it means. How can people get started? There's so many different ways. I think I talk a lot about real estate on my blog, and one of the most recent posts that I just wrote was 16 different ways to get involved in real estate. It's a big, broad spectrum of niches, right? But that's one easy way that you can get started. Some people do get passive income from the stock market, right? Mm-hmm. Just by investing. That's a really passive way as well. But ultimately, it takes money up front, and it takes knowing, where to put that money, right? And on my blog, I just mentioned a whole bunch of different ways people do passive income. People start businesses, right? They, like I say, they come up with apps. They do. Let me think of some other things that I put on my side hustle page. They start blogs, right? Mm-hmm. They do peer-to-peer lending. They do crowdfunding. There are just so many different ways. I try to put on a list on my site like 10 perfect passive income ideas for physicians. And a lot of these things are included on there.
So out of all the 10 perfect things that you listed, what's the easiest thing you think someone listening to this show can go on and start? And they may not be able to make money initially, but let's say they're just like, man, like I see everything that he's describing, but if I want to just start something that's the easiest, what's your recommendation?
The easiest. Let me see.
I put you on a spot right there, didn't I?
I know. I mean, the easiest thing to do is set up a brokerage account and start investing in broadly diversified index funds, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's the easiest way. Now,
let's talk. For example, let's do like crowdfunding, right? Crowdfunding real estate. Take us through that. Like, what exactly does that mean, crowdfunding real estate? And then we'll kind of go from there and kind of do a step-by-step process. We won't talk about any specific companies, mainly because they ain't sponsoring this show, so forget them. But let's start through that process. Tell us about what exactly crowdfunding real estate is, because that's really hot. Everybody's talking about it. Let's hear from you about what exactly that means.
Sure, that's probably my favorite way today of getting some passive income. I really like to focus on cash flow, right? You put some money out there and you get cash flow on a monthly basis. Real estate crowdfunding is something that's relatively new. In the past, when you wanted to invest in real estate, like invest with some of the big boys that are setting up these nice deals where they're going buying buildings or loaning out money and getting nice returns, before you had to know somebody. It's kind of like who you knew. Well, crowdfunding kind of opened that whole world up and kind of created all sorts of access for the average investor. Now, the problem is that for a lot of these platforms, you have to be an accredited investor, which means you kind of have to meet a certain minimum guideline that the government sets that says, oh, you're a sophisticated investor, and ultimately you can, I wouldn't say lose money, but you know how to value these investments, and you wouldn't go broke if it didn't go well, right? Mm-hmm. But that's also changed as well too over the last year or so. Now things have opened up to non-accredited investors as well, and so there are tons of these real estate crowdfunding platforms online. I talk about them a lot on my site because I think they're a great way to start investing in real estate, start learning the process, invest pretty passively because you have these platforms that are setting up these deals with these operators and doing these things, and you can get monthly cash flow from it. And so I've done this pretty successfully over the last 2.5, 3 years. I mean, not every deal is perfect, but you're able to diversify by getting into a bunch of different deals. And it's something that's pretty easy to do, and you can sign up and get going.
So if someone wants to learn about your website, they are listening to this podcast, they've never heard of you before, Passive Income MD, the notorious Passive Income MD. What's the best place for someone to start to just start the process of learning more about getting money passively? Like what's the seminal article that they should read?
The seminal article. That's,
you like that big word?
That's a lot. Yeah, that's a lot of pressure, man. I think. Can I name a couple articles? If that's okay?
You can do that. That's good.
Okay. Well, I think some of the first couple articles I wrote kind of puts it all in perspective. Why I'm doing this, and what passive income ultimately is. So it's probably 3 out of the first 10 posts I wrote. Number one's what is passive income, and I kind of define it from there. The next thing is 10 perfect passive income ideas for physicians, and then third one is why I'm beginning my retirement in my 30s. And in that last one, it kind of outlines my plan for retirement. It may be different from some other people. And I know some people talk about building up your nest egg. They talk about the 4% rule a lot and how you have to reach X amount, times your expenses by the time you're 60, 65, ready to retire. Well, I don't really follow that. That's really not my mindset. Like, I don't want to build something for someday in the future and just grind until then. And that's not something that I'm interested in, because I feel like you miss out on a lot if your focus is just for something, when you're 60, 65 and just trying to.
So you want to live life now, right?
Exactly. I want to live life now. And I think there's a balance. Obviously I have to work because I need to make money now, and I need to set myself up for retirement. So, but there's a way to do that with a good balance, I believe, and that's a lot of that has to do with building up these different multiple sources of income, mostly passive. And that allows you to kind of buy back your time today. So I've done that to a certain degree. I work now I've dropped about 20 to 25% of my clinical time. And I'm able to do that because that same income that I guess, quote unquote, lose from not working that time, I get from other sources. And so that's been my whole goal.
Now, how did that go over with your employer? How does that work? Did you have to give something up? Obviously, you had to give up, I'm sure, a portion of your salary or whatever you bring in from an income level. But were you ever given like an ultimatum, like you do it this amount of hours, or you may lose your job?
I'm really lucky because I'm an anesthesiologist, and I didn't think about this when I became an anesthesiologist. But every specialty has their own, pluses and minuses. The good thing about being an anesthesiologist is that I'm ultimately able. It's kind of like eat what you kill, in my opinion. So if I work less, trust me, somebody else is going to fill that spot and be able to take over for me, and I just make a little less. And ultimately, as long as somebody's there, somebody's taking care of the patient, everything goes well, right? When you're like a surgeon or you're on your own brand, it's hard to kind of step away a little bit, right? So you got to choose your specialty wisely, depending on your goals. And luckily for me, I'm able to do that without too much difficulty. I'm able to kind of step back. Some shifts I give to other colleagues. Some shifts I ask them to kind of reduce my shifts, and I'm able to do that without too much difficulty.
Okay. Any regrets about starting this process? Is there any potholes, anything that the listeners should watch out for that you can say, hey, listen, I did this, and if I had to go back, I would do things a little bit differently?
Well, I got really lucky because early on when I started working, I started seeing how being in medicine, it wasn't necessarily going to be a stable thing for me. I had friends that were coming out of residency with me. A couple of them, their groups had gotten bought out, right? They got bought out and they were kind of given an ultimatum. Take 20 to 30% less next year or consider finding another job, right? Or even at my own job, I felt like I'd been promised a certain number of hours, a certain amount of work, but that's when the economy was down a little bit. And there just weren't a lot of cases to go around. And so I ended up taking in a lot less pay, or I had a lot less hours available to me than I had originally thought. So that kind of got me thinking from early on, look, I can't rely on this. Medicine is not going in a direction that I wasn't optimistic about the future of medicine. And so for me, honestly, it wasn't that hard to try something different. I think I was kind of forced to do that in a way, to think that way. And so I'm lucky I started that journey. Now, I would have started the journey earlier. That's probably the one thing I regret. I wish I had started reading about this. I wish I'd started learning about this in residency, right? That's probably the one thing. And I would have probably started a little bit better right off the bat. I mean, I would have had some plans in place. I probably would have invested a little bit more wisely at the beginning of my career in terms of where I put my money. I probably would have made some wiser financial decisions. But there's not too much I regret. I mean, of course, I made mistakes. And I try to talk about that on the blog as much as possible. But I made mistakes, but it's really hard for me to say I regret anything I've done.
What kind of car do you drive?
I drive a Lexus.
I was going to see if you drive like the Batmobile or something like that, man.
No, I drive a Lexus. I drive a Lexus ES. I think it's a 300 or 350 hybrid. I've had that car. I bought that car in cash, and I've driven that car.
That's what I'm talking about. Yes,
for
no
4
financing.
or 5 years.
Right.
It's a very easy car. Some of my friends say it's a mom car. It's kind of like the souped up Toyota Camry, but I love it.
Now, what do you think is the biggest hurdle that you think most doctors need to get over to start doing passive income? Because I think it's great that what you write about, right? But then there's a lot of doctors. I'm sure that you get a lot of pushback from doctors who say, well, that's great and all, but I'm going to keep doing what I'm doing. Like, talk to us about that. Do you ever get pushback from physicians who say, like, why are you focusing on that? You should be focusing more on your clinical practice, X, Y, and Z. Anything? Do you get any of that type of feedback from people?
I got that from, if anybody, I got that from my father. He's a physician, and when he started seeing me really pursue these other things, he got on me a little bit. He's very much old school. You do your one job and you do it hard, and you get there and you work as hard as you can until you're 60, 65, 70 years old until you can't do it anymore. And that's the life you should lead. And so he's very much from that old mindset thinking. The thing I was reminding him was that, again, I don't think that paradigm or that kind of that kind of model is still relevant today. Back then, today there's Social Security. Back then, there were a bunch of people had pensions and these kind of things. I don't think the same thing applies today. I think it's totally different. You have to think differently. And so he gave me a lot of pushback. And so always felt like I had to prove to him that this was a good way to do it. And now 6-7 years later, obviously he's pretty proud of what, of how far I've come. And now he kind of gets it. Right. Mm-hmm. And so I've gotten a lot of that. Well, in terms of physicians, I hear all the time, how do you do it? Or how can I do it? Or I can't do it for these reasons. And I think the top couple of things are, number one, there's fear, right? I think it's fear that's holding people back. I don't know if it's failure or just that fear of just trying something different, right? They've only known one thing their whole lives, and that's medicine. The other thing is people feel like they don't have the time. They're busy, they have families, they have their full-time job. I just don't have the time to do these things. And the other thing might be that, maybe they'll get some criticism at work or these kind of things. But for me, the thing I remind people is that you never know until you try, right? Especially when it comes to failure. For me, I think it's not the fear of failure that really kind of held me back. I kind of had the opposite.
It's regret.
Yeah, it's regret. And then something that I don't know if you follow Tim Ferriss or not of the 4-Hour Workweek. But
yeah, absolutely.
I follow him all the time. And one of his TED Talks that he gave, he talked about, fear of failure and fear of these things. But the thing that people tend to forget about is the cost of inaction, the cost of inaction. So people forget that. Like, where will you be in, where will you be in 3, 5, 10 years if you don't do anything? And that's probably something you should fear, right? Like, your life is not going to change. And are you okay with that to be in the exact same place or even possibly a worse place 3 to 5 years from now? And that should probably, if anything, cause you more fear than anything. And so that's the way it is for me. I saw my life and I said, look, if I'm still doing this exact same thing in 5 years, I'm going to be in a lot of trouble here, especially if I'm relying on just one thing. And so that's kind of pushed me to make some bold steps.
I love that answer. Well, look, by the time this episode comes out, this will probably be in the past, but obviously right now the stock market had a huge drop, about 4.7% or 4.6% yesterday. So that dropped though, right? It dropped over 1,100 points in 24 hours. I know you talk about having stuff in stocks and bonds and so forth. For those who don't really understand the stock market as well as you do, give them some advice as to what they should do at this moment.
I have to be honest with you. I don't know a whole lot about the stock market. That's not my forte. I do talk about it, and I only talk about it investing from a very non-emotional kind of like a dollar cost averaging standpoint. Honestly, I'm very not versed in it, and I believe that the amount of knowledge that I can spend reading about it, I will never match all those people in all those big buildings in New York, right? And I won't even come close. And so I've really taken a stance that, look, I am going to, following, Physician on Fire's advice, following white coat investors' advice, just play it safe. Don't even worry about swings in the market. Dollar cost average. Know that over time it will go up. So just invest safely. And don't even think about the swings. Invest unemotionally. And I've tried to do that. I'm a pretty emotional guy. I know I'm an emotional investor, and I've done it in the past where I've chased back in the late 90s, these things. I've chased all the dot-com stuff. I lost a lot of money. Well, what I thought was a lot of money back then, especially as a medical student or resident. And so I really found that is not my strength. So when I talk about the stock market, if I ever do, it's very much just a bland invest in your tax advantage accounts and leave it in the safest, most broadly diversified thing possible. Everything else, when I talk about real estate, and those are the things I get really excited about, stuff that I feel like you have some sort of influence over, that you can kind of use some of your smarts, some of your intelligence, some strategy to ultimately kind of affect the outcome of your investment.
Good answer. Well, look, we're getting towards the end of the interview. Let's do some fast fire questions. This is basically, I ask you a question, you tell me what comes off the top of the dome piece. You ready to do this?
Sure, let's do it.
All right. What's one thing you want people to learn from this podcast?
I want people to know that anybody can develop multiple streams of income. whether you have a busy job, family, all these type of things, you have the ability, and I've seen people do it, and you just have to prioritize, in my opinion. And if you feel like you don't have the time to pursue these things or pursue your passions, pursue these things, I've heard it said that you truly don't have priorities. Because if you do, you'll find time to do these things.
Love it. Love it. Knowing what you know right now, what kind of advice would you have given yourself as a pre-med? Besides, don't chase those .coms.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say start reading about finances now. I didn't even know that these, actually, maybe even then, these resources were not available. Things like the Y Code, I've mentioned these guys a bunch of times now, but the Y Code Investor, the Physician on Fire, and other blogs like that, they're out there. And they're talking about financial literacy for physicians. And those things need to be kind of ingrained in you early on. So that way you'll make smarter decisions later on. That's one. And then you should be learning about, one of the cool things is that you're learning about docs doing things outside of medicine. I mean, those things are out there now. It wasn't like that when I was in medical school. I don't know if it was for you, right? I guess that's why you started. That's why you started this podcast, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think it's great for people in medicine, pre-med, to learn about these things as well. That you should be listening to Docs Outside the Box. Little shout out there. Hippocratic Hustle, things like that. I mean, talk to physicians who are in medicine and who are happy and aren't happy, and then try to follow the happy path.
Love it. Love it. Okay, so what's one piece of technology, one life hack that you use that makes your life better, that makes you more productive?
I mean, this one's a little boring, but I hate paperwork. I mean, I'm like the worst when it comes to kind of keeping track of paperwork. Things are flying all over the place. And so probably the one app or piece of technology that's really changed my life is just being able to scan on your phone. I use TurboScan. I know there's a bunch of different kinds, but now whenever I open up a piece of mail, almost every single piece of mail that seems somewhat pertinent, I scan it right on the spot and just throw it up on my Dropbox. And that's changed my life because now I just have to just search online versus trying to track down the paperwork. And honestly, I've lost a lot of stuff over time.
Well, I think that's a really good idea, actually. I didn't even think about that. I just figured maybe you scanned, some contracts and things like that, but literally scanning all of your mail or, what you consider to be important, and you come back to it. That's a really good idea.
I scan everything. That's it.
Well, look, the notorious PIMD, we're at the end of our interview. I ask my physicians this question all the time. I'm not just a doc, what say you?
I would say I'm not just a doc. I'm a multi-career professional. I mean, that's something I'm proud of, that I have multiple careers. And I think that's something that I'm not ashamed of. I don't feel guilty about. I think I'm able to juggle all these things and really enjoy them all. So that's my answer.
Awesome answer. This was a really good interview. We got a little bit of a window into your life and into, in essence, your career, like you said, as a multi-faceted individual outside of being a physician. So thank you again for your time. I guess you're going to just get back into the back car or the back cave and get back to work on some more articles. But in essence, it's really, I think it's refreshing to have people out like you out there just saying that, hey, I enjoy what I do as a physician, but also at the same time, I want to celebrate the fact that I want to spend time with family and do other things. So I think we need more people like you, and I applaud you for your efforts, and I acknowledge you for what you do. Keep up the great work.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
Once again, I got to thank Passive Income MD for taking some time out to be on the show. I learned a lot from him. I hope you learned a lot from him. I was keeping plenty of notes, and I actually know exactly how I'm going to start my first passive income stream. If you are wondering how you're going to start, just go to the website, check it out, and then send me a screenshot or send me just a little picture of where you think you're going to start with your passive income, and I'll share it on the Facebook group or even talk about it on the show. Listen, if you want to learn more about Passive Income MD, just check out his website, passiveincomemd.com, and then all the articles, all the blogs that we talked about on the show will be listed in the show notes. So once again, thank you all for joining me on the show. I'm going to catch you all on the next one, but before I jet, remember one thing. We only got one life. Let's make it count and live outside the box. Peace.